Hi guys, this is Kwame, and today I want to show you a highly interactive COVID-19 tracker I created for my home country of Canada using Tableau. It is a simpler version of a more information-laden dashboard I developed for my own personal use, which you can find on my Tableau public account using the link provided in the description below. I will first demonstrate what the dashboard does and the information it displays, and then show you how I created it so that you can create something similar for your respective country or region. Let's begin. This dashboard tracks Canada's reported COVID-19 cases and deaths from January 2020 to January 2023, practically the entire 3-year time span of the COVID epidemic. I designed it in a way that allows the user to filter the data to show only the results for each Canadian province or territory, or for Canada as a whole, using this select region filter action, as well as with this cases or deaths filter action. So in other words, I am able to filter the results of the dashboard based on each of Canada's provinces and territories, as well as by cases or deaths. There is a large map of Canada in the middle of the dashboard that illustrates the geographic impact of the virus, with the size of the circles indicating the severity. The larger the circle, the more cases and deaths reported by any given region. This section seamlessly swaps between two separate sheets, one showing the total cases and the other showing the total deaths, depending on whether I select cases or deaths. On the right hand side of the dashboard, we have a column chart that shows the results for every province and territory in absolute amounts. Like the map section, this section also uses sheet swapping to show the results for either total cases or deaths depending on the selection criteria. Jumping to the left side of the dashboard, there are two line charts. One showing how the total COVID cases for the selected region has trended over time, and the other showing the trend for the total COVID deaths for the region. This section does not use sheet swapping. The dashboard also has a banner at the top that provides conspicuous key metrics based on my selected criteria, particularly for the total cases, total deaths, new cases over the last 7 days, and new deaths over the last 7 days. Finally, there's a text section that lets the user know the results are being displayed at any given time. Let's play around with the dashboard, shall we? So by default, the dashboard shows the total reported cases for all of Canada. As you can see from the banner here, there have been 4,550,243 cases, total cases, 50,381 total deaths, 11,029 new cases over the last 7 days from the reporting date, and 229 new deaths over the last 7 days from the reporting date. The map chart, on the other hand, provides a basic visual of how each province and territory has fared, while the line charts on the left side of the dashboard show how the total cases and deaths for the entire country has trended over the past 3 years. If I filter the results based on deaths instead of cases, the total cases map chart and the total cases column chart gets swapped for charts showing the total deaths instead. If I want to see the results for only the province of Ontario or any other region for that matter, all I have to do is select the province or region using the select region filter action. When I do, the banner summary figures, the map chart, and the line charts all change to reflect my selection. At the same time, the contextual text element keeps us informed about the exact results currently being displayed so that there is no confusion. So currently, we are seeing the results for the total deaths for Ontario only. So that's how this dashboard works. Once again, You can check out my complete Canada COVID-19 tracker on my Tableau public account using the link provided in the description below. If you want to learn how I created a dashboard, keep on watching and hit the like button if you want to see more videos like this one. This Tableau portfolio exercise will cover many things you already know how to do in Tableau and probably some things you don't. It covers creating charts and graphs, creating and using sets, calculated fields, and parameters, using the mechanics of sheet swapping to design an uncluttered dashboard, and designing and formatting a dashboard. The most complicated part of the exercise will likely be the sheet swapping aspect. The first thing you need to do is to obtain COVID-19 data for your respective country or region. I found mine by simply making a Google search for Canada COVID dataset. Try that and see what you get. The more up-to-date the data, the better and the more informative your COVID tracker will be. When you do find an appropriate dataset, the next thing to do is to clean it up by deleting any fields of data you don't need. This will make the dashboard section of the Tableau interface less cluttered to work with. In my case, I truly only needed a field containing the names of the Canadian provinces and territories, a field for the reporting date, a field containing the amounts for the total cases, as well as a field for the total cases over the last 7 days, a field for the total deaths, and a field for the total deaths over the last 7 days. I kept several other fields around just in case I might need them in the future, but overall, I deleted around 10 fields that I deemed completely unnecessary. After you're done cleaning your dataset, simply connect it to Tableau to begin creating your COVID tracker. So this is the file I want connected. Once connected, create a new sheet and rename the fields so that the names reflect the data they contain. This will spare you the trouble of not having to fiddle around wondering what data a particular field contains. So create new sheet. I am going to change this field. I'm going to rename it to regions because it's the field that contains the names of Canada's provinces and territories. I am also going to change this field to total cases. I want to rename this field to total deaths. I want to rename this field here to total cases last 7 days. And I want to rename this field to total deaths last 7 days. Also change the properties of any fields that need to be changed. The only field that needs changing in my case is the one containing the names of Canada's provinces and territories. I am going to change the geographic row from none to state province. So this here, region, I want to click on the drop down. I want to go to geographic row and I want to change it from none to state province. This is necessary when you want to create map charts. Tableau needs to know it's working with geographic areas in order to create a map chart. Next, create all the charts you will need for the dashboard. For this project, I need a column chart showing the COVID cases for each province and territory, and another column chart for showing the total deaths. I also need a line chart showing how the COVID cases have trended over time, and another one for the deaths. Finally, I need 2 map charts showing the geographic impact of the epidemic, one for cases and the other for deaths. Let's begin with column charts first. To create the first column chart, all I am going to do is drag the regions field to the rows area and the total cases field to the column area. I am going to then rank the regions from highest to lowest by COVID cases. and then drag the total cases field onto the labels mark so that the amounts display on the bars. Looking at the results, I am presented with two issues. The first one is that the chart includes two records I don't want included. One is the total for all of Canada, and the other is for repatriated travelers. So I need to remove this Canada record here, as well as this repatriated travelers record from the column chart and from my analysis as a whole. The second issue has to do with the totals. Canada doesn't have a large enough population to warrant such a large number of COVID cases per province or territory. So there's no way Canada has had over 200 million COVID cases. There's no way any of these provinces or territories has had these large number of COVID cases. This problem arises because my particular dataset presents the totals over time as running totals. Tableau then adds these running totals together to arrive at these absurdly wrong amounts. With the first issue, whenever you want to exclude certain records from a calculation, you can do so by using sets. In my case, I will select the regions field, click on the drop down, click on create, and then click on set. Next, I am going to select the fields I want excluded from my analysis. So in this case, Canada, and repatriated travelers. Next, I am going to check the exclude option on the bottom right hand side over here. When I do, I am going to have a new set. Next, drag the new set into the filters area, and that should do the trick. So notice that the Canada and repatriated travelers records are no longer included in the column chart or in my analysis. For the second issue, since my dataset uses running totals, I need to tell Tableau to give me only the final totals at the end of the reporting date instead of adding all of the running totals together. I can do that by using a calculator field to set this condition. To create a calculator field, all you need to do is just click on this drop down here and then click on create calculator field and then provide the function. I need to restrict Tableau to only use the last date. So this is the function I wrote. I am going to rename this calculator field latest results. Then click OK. So I have a new calculator field. I'm going to drag it into the filters area to modify the results. I'm going to check true to let Tableau know that this condition is true. Click apply and then click OK. So these are the right figures for Canada's provinces and territories. These are the right COVID figures for Canada's provinces and territories. If your dataset does not present the amounts for COVID cases and deaths as running totals, you likely won't need this step. Tableau will correctly add together the individual amount for each date to give you the right results. My column chart is done. What I want now is to give the sheet an appropriate name. So let's call it column cases. And then I want to create another column chart for the COVID deaths per region. Fortunately, I don't have to start from scratch. All I have to do is duplicate the first column chart and make some slight modifications to it. So right click and then duplicate. I am going to change the name of the duplicate sheet to column deaths. Then I am going to replace the total cases field under the columns area with the total deaths field. I also want to replace the total cases field under the label marks area with the total deaths field. Finally, I want to sort the column chart from highest to lowest. And that's it for our second column chart. The next set of charts are the map charts showing the geographic impact of the virus. I am going to create a new sheet, name it Map Cases Drag the regions field under the columns area, drag the total cases field under the rows area, select the map option, and there we have it. Next, I want to increase the size of the circles to make them a bit larger. So I'm going to click on size over here, drag it to about here, and then decrease the opacity to make it more clearer. So I'm going to bring it to maybe 60%. Next, I want to make sure that the values are correct. And they are not. They are not because of the whole running total subnation issue I discussed earlier. To correct that issue and to modify the results, I need to drag the latest results calculated field and the region set that I created earlier into the filters area. And these should be the right results. The first map chart is complete. The second map chart is nearly identical to the first one, except that it shows the results for total deaths instead of total cases. So all I am going to do is duplicate the first chart and then replace the total cases field with the total deaths field. So right click, duplicate, change the name of this sheet to map deaths, and then drag the total deaths field over the size mark to replace the total cases field. And that's it. And then perhaps change the color to red. Our second map chart is complete. The final set of charts are line charts or area charts that show how your country's COVID cases and deaths have trended over time. For the first one, I am going to create a new sheet, call it line cases, drag the date field into the columns area, and drag the total cases field into the rows area. Then I am going to select area chart, and then go to the date field in the columns area, click on the drop down, and then select week number. The reason why I selected the week number function instead of one of the other date functions is because my particular dataset is recorded and sorted by weeks and years instead of by days or months. Select whichever date function is appropriate for your dataset. I want to then check that the amounts are correct. And they are not. This time around, the problem is that Tableau is double counting the amounts as a result of including the Canada and repatriated travelers amounts into the calculation. Just put the regions set into the filters area to remove those two elements. And we have the right amounts. That's it for this chart. I will create the second line chart by simply duplicating the first one, changing the name of the sheet, replacing the total cases field with a total deaths field, and changing the color to red. So duplicate, name change, let's change it to line deaths, and then replace the total cases field with the total deaths. And then change the color to red. And that's all. Now that I have all the charts I need, I want to provide the user a way to seamlessly swap between them using a drop-down or a menu. In other words, I want to create dynamic charts, and I can do that by using sheet swapping. Sheet swapping in Tableau requires the use of a parameter, filters, and dashboard containers to work. I will first demonstrate it with the column charts. What I want here is to create a drop-down that lets the user choose to display the results for either cases or deaths, but not both at the same time. When one option is selected, its corresponding chart displays while the corresponding chart for the non-selected option disappears. First, I need to create a parameter to provide the list of options. On the drop-down in the sidebar, click create parameter. Let's call this parameter cases or deaths. Let's change the data type to string. And then let's provide the user a list of options to choose from. I want the values to be cases and deaths. And then click OK. I also want to show the parameter control. So click on the drop down and select Show Parameter. And here we are presented with our list of options. If the user chooses cases, only the column chart for COVID cases should display and nothing else. If the user chooses deaths, then only the column chart for COVID deaths should display and nothing else. Since Tableau doesn't allow parameters to be placed in the filters area, I need to embed this parameter into a calculated field and then put the calculated field in the filters area. So in the sidebar, click on the drop down and then click on Create Calculated Field. Give it a name, so I'm going to call it cases or deaths, as I did with the parameter. Then all I have to do, or all you have to do, is just drag the parameter and place it inside the input area. And then click OK. Next, drag the new calculated field and place it under the filters area. Then create a custom value list to let Tableau know what you want to do with the chart. So in this case, I want this particular column chart to display only if the user chooses the cases option. So the value I want to input here is cases. And then I click on the add button, select it, and then I want to deselect this option. I want to remove this option. And I click on OK. Now notice what happens when I switch between the different options. So right now, the cases option is selected, and that's why we are seeing the chart. If I select deaths, the chart should disappear. And it does. Cases, it reappears. What you need to do next is repeat this process with the sheet containing the COVID deaths column chart. So click on the sheet, show the parameter control, add the cases or deaths calculated field into the filters area, and create a new custom value list. I want this chart to only show when the user chooses deaths from the dropdown. So the value I want to input is deaths. Click the add button, select it, remove this option, and click OK. So the reason why the chart is not showing is because currently the cases option is the one that's selected. If I select the deaths option, the chart should appear. While I'm at it, I am going to change the color of this chart to red to create a contrast between it and the cases chart. Because I have chosen deaths, that means the COVID cases chart has collapsed and disappeared. So if I open it, it's gone. If I choose cases instead, the COVID cases chart will reappear while the COVID deaths chart will disappear. So here it is. And if I open the deaths chart, it's gone. This demonstrates the core element of sheet swapping. You will see how it fully works when I create the dashboard. I am going to apply this process to the map charts. If the end user chooses cases, then the COVID cases map chart will display and the COVID deaths map chart will disappear. If the user chooses deaths, then the COVID deaths map chart displays and the COVID cases map chart disappears. So show the parameter control, drag the cases or deaths calculated field into the filters area, create a new custom value list, and since we are dealing with the COVID map chart, I want the value to be cases. Add. And then remove this option. Okay. I am going to do the same thing with the COVID deaths map chart. Click, show parameter controls, drag the cases or deaths calculated field into the filters area, create a new custom value list, and the value we want or the option we want to provide for this one is deaths. Add, remove the option, and click OK. Since the COVID cases option is the one that's currently selected, the COVID deaths map chart is not displaying, but the COVID cases map chart is displaying. If I select the deaths option instead, the COVID cases map chart disappears and the COVID deaths map chart appears. I won't be using sheet swapping for the line charts, but what I will do is allow the user to filter the charts by regions. So open the chart. I am going to click on the drop down for my region set, click on show filter. And then with the filter, click on the drop down and then click on single value drop down. And here are my options. With the other line chart, the same thing. Click on the drop down on the region set, click on show filter, and then click on single value drop down. So this filter, this drop down filter, allows the user to filter the chart by the Canadian provinces and territory. Okay, so I have all the charts I need for the dashboard and applied sheet swapping to the necessary charts. All I need now is to create a massive banner that displays a summary of the user's selection, a contextual text element that lets the user know the results being displayed at any given time, and a footer. Let's start with the banner. Create a new sheet. I want the banner to provide metrics for total cases, total deaths, new cases over the last 7 days from the reporting date, and new deaths over the last 7 days from the reporting date. I will start by dragging the total cases field over the text mark, double-clicking on the total deaths field, double-clicking on the total cases last 7 days field, and double-click on the total deaths last 7 days field. Then I want to change the orientation of the banner and make it span the entire view. Then I want to check that the values are correct, and in my case they are not, for the same reasons why the values for the other charts were incorrect. I need to arrive at the right values by dragging the region set and the latest results calculated field into the filters area. And these are the right results. Next, hide the title by right-clicking and then hide title. Change the headers to whatever you want them to be by simply clicking on one of them and clicking on edit alias. In my case, I am okay with the way they are, so I am going to leave them the way they are. What I want, however, is to display the headers underneath the values. And I do that by simply going to the measure names field, holding Control and dragging it over the text mark. Next, I want to make the values much bigger than the headers. And I do that by clicking on the text mark, clicking on this icon, highlighting the measure value field, and then choosing the font size. So let's make it 26, and let's make it bold. I also want to center the headers. And once again, click on the text mark. This time around, click on the alignment drop down and hit on center. Let's hide the headers by clicking on the drop down here and unchecking the show header option. Finally, I want to hide the row dividers at the top over here and at the bottom over here. Just go to Format, go to Borders, go to Row Divider, click on the drop down and click on None. And that's it for our banner. Let me call this sheet Banner. Next, I will create a new worksheet for the contextual text that highlights the results being displayed. Let's call this sheet Results. And then all I have to do is drag the measure names field over the detail mark. You can technically use any of these other fields for this to work, but I chose to go with the measure names field. Then I want to hide this blue square by first decreasing the size to 0 and decreasing the opacity to 0. Then double click on the results title. I want this to read results, total cases, that's for region. These box brackets serve as placeholders and will change to reflect the user's selection once I put together the dashboard. So click on OK, and that should be it for this worksheet. The final worksheet is for the footer, and it will display the data source and the last time the data source was refreshed. So create a new worksheet, call it footer, and what I want to do is create a new calculated field. I want this calculated field to be blank. So create a blank calculated field and click OK. Then double click on the title, and I want the text to read data source name. So click on the insert here and click on data source name as of the data source update time. And then highlight this text, shrink the font size to 8, make it italic, and make it right aligned. And then click OK. Then drag the blank calculated field onto the text tab. The reason why I placed a blank calculated field onto the text mark is because there needs to be a field in a worksheet canvas for Tableau to know where to get the data and data source metadata from. And that's it for all the worksheet we need for the dashboard. So the next step is to bring them all together, put them all together to create our COVID tracker. Create a new dashboard and give it a name. I'm going to call mine COVID tracker. Before I start designing the dashboard, let me demonstrate the final element of sheet swapping. First, you need to create a container and place the sheets that you want to swap into it. If, for example, you put two charts inside the container, both charts will occupy and split the container by default, and therefore will be visible. However, if one of them disappears, then the other one expands to take over the entire container. For example, let me create a vertical container and let me put the two map charts inside it. So drag the map chart 1 and put it inside, and drag the second map chart and put it inside. So notice that at the moment, what we are seeing or what is being displayed is the COVID cases map chart. And that's because that is the option that is currently selected. As a result, the COVID deaths map chart has collapsed and the COVID cases map chart has expanded to take up the entire container. If I select deaths instead, the COVID cases map chart collapses and the COVID deaths map chart expands to take up the entire container. So that's pretty much the mechanics of sheet swapping. Now that you understand how it works, let's proceed to create our COVID tracker. I am going to undo all the changes I made to this dashboard and start from scratch. Let's start by first increasing the width of the dashboard so that all of the charts are clearly visible. So head down to the size area over here, click on the drop down, and let's make the minimum width 1100 pixels. The first charts I want to add to the dashboard are the map charts. So first, create a vertical container, and then drag the map charts into the container. So the first one, and then drag the second one just underneath the first one. Remember, the sheets you want to swap need to be placed and contained in one container. Sheet swapping won't work if you put the individual charts into separate containers. Next, hide the titles. So right click on the titles and hide title. Do the same for the second chart. Right click, hide title. And then remove this element from the dashboard. So click on it, click on this drop down, and then click on remove from dashboard. Do the same for this element over here too. Click on it, click on the drop down, and remove from dashboard. Next, let's add the column charts. So as with the first charts, first add a vertical container, and I'm going to place it on the right side of the map chart. Decrease the width and drag the column charts into the container, both of them. So one, and the second one just underneath it, two. Hide the titles. So right click on the title, hide title, right click, hide title. Finally, let's add the line charts. So once again, vertical container. This time to the left of the chart, to the left of the map chart. And then decrease the width. And then place the line charts inside the container. And our COVID tracker is taking shape. We have two region filters, but we only need one. So let's remove one of them. So click the drop down and remove from dashboard. Let's now add the banner to the dashboard. And for the banner, there's no need to put it inside a container. All I have to do is just find it and drag it and place it above the charts. So drag right above the charts. And then decrease the height. Hide the title. Now let's add the contextual text element. And for this one, I want to put it inside a horizontal container. So drag the horizontal container and place it between the banner and the charts. Right over here. Decrease the height. Decrease it a bit more. And then place the contextual text element inside the container. And then I want the text to span the entire width of this container here. So click on the drop down here, click on fit, and click on entire view. Let's now move these filters around. So I want to position them beside the contextual text element, meaning moving them inside the same horizontal container. So let's start with the regions filter. Click on it and then drag it and place it beside the contextual text element. Do the same for the cases or deaths filter. Click and then drag it and place it beside the regions filter. We have a small container here that we don't need. So click on it, click on the drop down, and then remove it from dashboard. Then resize the fields and the filters. So click, drag to resize it, click, drag to resize. Let's add the footer to the bottom of the dashboard. So click the footer, drag it and place it underneath the charts. Right over here. Decrease the height and make the text span the entire width. So click on it, click on the drop down here, click on fit and entire view. And there we have it. Finally, let's give the dashboard a title. For this one, all I have to do is just drag a text object and place it above the banner. And then write our title. So in this case, mine is Canada COVID-19 Tracker. And then put the date range. So in my case, my data source spans January 1st, 2020 to January 21, 2023. Then make the title larger, the text larger. Let's make it 28. Make it bold. Perhaps change the color of the COVID-19 text to red. Center the text, both of them. Increase the font size of the date by, let's say, 12. And then click OK. Reduce the height of the charts to make room for the banner. Reduce the height of the contextual text also. And we are looking good. The date underneath the title is not showing, so let's make a bit more room for it. So let's drag the charts down a bit more. Drag this element down a bit more. And drag the banner down a bit more. Let's see what we get. There we go. So all of the components of the dashboard are laid out the way I want them to. What I want to do now is to make the entire dashboard completely interactive. Notably, I want these action filters, the regions filter and the cases or deaths filter, to impact the banner, the contextual text element, and the charts if necessary. Let's start with the cases or deaths filter. So this filter already does mostly what it was designed to do, and that is to impact the map chart and the column charts. So if I switch to deaths, the charts change to reflect my selection. The only problem is that the contextual text element hasn't changed to reflect my selections. So I want this placeholder here, this cases/deaths placeholder, to change to either cases or deaths if either one of them is selected. To make that happen, just double click on it and highlight the placeholder. Click on the drop down, the insert drop down, and select the parameter cases or deaths option here. Let's make it red. And okay. So now whenever I select either cases or deaths, the text here changes to reflect it. So right now, let's select deaths, cases. You get the idea. Let's now deal with the regions filter. For this one, I want the filter to affect the banner, the contextual text element, the line charts, the map charts, but not the column charts. To do that, just click on the action filter, click on the drop down over here, click on apply to worksheets, and click on selected worksheets. Then select all the sheets or charts that you want affected. In this case, I want the map charts, I want the line charts, the banner, and of course the contextual text element, but not the map charts. And click on OK. So as you can see, since Alberta is the option selected, we are seeing the results for Alberta. The banner has changed to reflect my selection, and so has the map chart and the line charts. Let's try Ontario. The same thing. All the relevant elements have changed to reflect my selection. The only element that hasn't changed is the contextual text element. So we want this region placeholder to change to reflect each state, each province or territory. And to do that, just double click on the element again, highlight the region placeholder, click on the insert drop down once again, and select regions. Click OK, and that should do the trick. So right now we are seeing the results for total cases for Ontario. Let's try Alberta. Results. Total cases for Alberta. Let's try deaths. Results. Total deaths for Alberta. And let's go back to default. So that's that. Our dashboard is completely interactive. Let's do some slight cosmetic changes before giving it a thorough formatting. So first, change the height of the dashboard to 620. Next, change the size of the title text to 20 and the date subtext to 10. Decrease the font size of the contextual text element to 13. And bold the results text. Change the title of the COVID cases and deaths line charts to just total cases and total deaths respectively. Decrease the text to 10 and center it. Remove the axis titles from all of the charts. So let's remove this one. And I do that by just simply double clicking on it and then deleting the axis title. So I don't want anything there. Backspace and then close. Weekdate, delete, close. Delete, close, delete, close. For the column chart, I want the entire axis to be removed. So all I have to do is just right click on it and then uncheck the show header option. I also want to hide this region's title. So right click on it and hide field labels for rows. Before I continue with the formatting, I want to make one last technical adjustment to the contextual text element. Notice how when all of the provinces and territories are selected, it reads for all. So total cases for all. But for all of what? What does the all entail? I don't want the end user to get confused as to what all entails. So what I want to do is to make it read for all of Canada when all of the provinces and territories are selected. As such, I need to append the word of Canada to the end of all. And I can do that by using a calculated field. Open the sheet that contains the contextual text element. Create a new calculated field. Give it a name. I'm going to call mine All Canada. What we want to do here is to write a conditional statement that displays the phrase of Canada when more than one region is selected and display nothing if only one region is selected. This is the conditional statement I wrote. So what this says is that if county regions greater than 1, so if more than one region is selected, then display of Canada, the phrase of Canada. Otherwise, display nothing. End. Click OK. And then drag the new calculated field over the detail mark. Head back to the dashboard, click on the contextual text element, click just after the region's placeholder, space, click on the insert dropdown, and then click on our new aggregated calculated field. And then OK. Notice how it now says all of Canada when all of the regions are selected. If I select just one region, it disappears. And that's exactly what we want. Let's now add the finishing touches and then pat ourselves on the back for a job well done. For my design, I want the top section to be white on black. In other words, a black background with white text. Let's start with the banner first. So click on the banner sheet, go on top over here and click on Format. Select Shading. And then from this shading section here, change the worksheet background from white to a shade of black. And there you have it. For the text, all you have to do is just click on the text mark, click on this icon, highlight both text, and change the color to white. And then OK. While I'm at it, I want to change or move around some of these metrics. I want the total deaths to be second. So I'm going to drag it over here and place it second. And then head back to the dashboard. There it is. I also want to make the title section white on black. First, close this dialog box, click on the title section, then click on the layout tab. Then go all the way down to the background section and change the background color to the same shade of black as the banner. Next, change the text, the title text, to white. So double click on the title section, highlight both text, change the color to white, and of course, change the COVID-19 text back to red. And then OK. To remove the white space between the two sections, go to the outer padding section of the layout tab, and then click on it. Unlock all four sides, and we want to reduce the bottom padding to 0. And then OK. We want to do the exact same thing for the banner. So click on the banner, and this time around we are dealing with the top section, the top padding. So unlock and then change it from 4 to 0. And there you have it. Remove the left axis from the line charts. Hide the layout pane. And we are pretty much done. All you have to do now is format and change the proportions of the sections to your liking. Once you're done, click on presentation mode, play around with the dashboard, and marvel at the results of your hard work. Well done. That's it for this exercise, guys. If you want more videos like it, click the like button and subscribe to receive my newest releases once they arrive. In the meantime, check out this full data analysis portfolio exercise to get an idea of what an entry-level data analyst will be expected to do. Leave your questions in the comments.